What's happening, YouTube? This is Brian916. Thanks for tuning in and welcome back to the channel. So behind me I got my Jeep here. I'm going to be doing a little bit of maintenance on my own personal vehicle today. I got a notice in the mail. If you live in the state of California, you're pretty familiar with this notice. So if you don't live in the state of California, if you're not familiar with getting a smog test done, basically it's a thorough examination of the emissions that your vehicle is putting out. So what happens is a smog technician, which is a technician that only specializes in emissions, and all they do is emissions related repairs, and they check vehicles for emissions. So the vehicle is put on a dyno and is driven on that dyno at different speeds. At idle, then they'll increase speed, and then they'll really increase speed. And the probe is picking up emissions that's coming out of the tailpipe. The three emissions that you need to be below standard is going to be your hydrocarbons, CO2, which is carbon dioxide of oxygen, and then it's going to be your NOx, NOx, which is nitrogen oxides. So all these chemicals need to be below California standards or you'll fail. So basically what that translates into is everything in your car needs to work. If there's some system that's lagging, or you're behind in maintenance or anything like that, or your catalytic converter is not efficient, or your EGR system is not efficient, any type of emissions related device, if it's not working optimally, you're going to fail this test. If you have any kind of vacuum leaks, you're going to fail this test. If you have any type of PCV system problem, you're going to fail this test. And it's a very rigorous test. Not only is the emissions documented and sent directly to the DMV, pass or fail, they also do a visual. So they visually check for leaks, primarily fuel leaks. The integrity of your gas cap is tested. Visual, any smoke, any visual smoke or anything like that. If it's an older vehicle, they're going to check ignition timing, so your ignition timing need to be spot on. So today I'm going to give you guys some do's and don'ts of how to pass smog in the state of California, and also some tips on passing smog. So let's get to it. So step one in making sure that you pass smog is, if you just replaced your battery or disconnected your battery in any kind of way, do not take your vehicle in for a smog, because you will fail. The monitors have to be set. So if you just replaced your battery or disconnected the battery terminal and the computer lost information, you need to drive your vehicle until the monitors are set before you can take it into your smog. Step two, make sure all your emissions information is easily to read. If it's filled with dirt, then it's not easy for the smog tech to be able to see the information on the sticker up here. Go ahead and clean it off and make sure that this information here is easy to be read. Step three, if you have an aftermarket intake like I do here, make sure that it's CARB compliant. If it's not CARB compliant, you're going to have to put your stock air cleaner back. So if you're not sure if it's a CARB compliant aftermarket air intake, just go ahead and put the stock one on. If you have no labels like this underneath the hood, go ahead and put the stock air cleaner back on. So you can see here that it says it's CARB compliant. That stands for California Air Research Board. So the next thing you want to do is to go through and check all the hoses on your vehicle. Make sure that they're firmly attached to wherever they go. You want to check the PCV hoses, the evap hoses, and the vacuum hoses. You want to make sure that those hoses are securely attached and that there's no tears or breaks in the hoses. So make sure that the hose fits whatever it's attached to appropriately. You don't want it to be on there and it to be too big and with a big clamp tied around it. Make sure you get the proper size hose that fits wherever the hose goes to. Also, a split hose like this, you will fail the visual inspection, so make sure that there's no splits in the hose. So in order to correct this problem, do not use electrical tape to try to close this gap in this split hose. You will fail the visual. You need to actually replace the hose or snip off the split part. Do not try to rig the hose with electrical tape, any type of duct tape or glue or silicone. Make sure you got a proper hose. If your intake has a vacuum port that is not being used, make sure you check your emission sticker that particular vacuum port is not being used, and if it's not, make sure you have a good vacuum cap on it. Okay, so you want to make sure that your malfunction indicator lamp status is off. You want to make sure that there's no diagnostic trouble codes stored in the computer, which we see we have none. Basically, do not have a check engine light on. Also, we want to make sure that the readiness is complete. So we can see that there's 0 items that's not complete. So let's go to read codes, and we'll see that the vehicle has no codes. So you want this vehicle to have no fault codes before you take your vehicle in. Also, you want to make sure that all the monitors are ready. So since diagnostic trouble codes were clear at last, we'll check. So we can see that all the monitors are okay. Misfire monitor okay, fuel system monitor okay, our comprehensive component monitor okay, catalyst is okay, which is a big one. Catalyst and evap is going to be a big one to make sure that those are set. So our heated catalyst monitor not applicable, and our evap system okay. Secondary air system monitor not applicable. Our oxygen sensor monitor okay. And again, oxygen sensor heater monitor okay. And of course, this vehicle is not equipped with EGR or a variable valve timing, so it's not applicable. So you want to make sure all this stuff is okay before you go in. So the next thing you want to do is test the integrity of your gas cap. You want to make sure that the O-ring is not torn. If you have a lot of little tears around this rubber O-ring, go ahead and buy a new gas cap. And if the gas cap is broken in any kind of way, go ahead and replace it, because you will fail. So make sure that your gas cap is in good shape as well. All right, so everything looked good on this vehicle as far as passing the visual. Now we need to make sure that we pass the emissions portion. So a couple tips here. Do not pour any additives into your fuel system. I hear people say that all the time. Dump a bottle of seafoam in there, or put any type of placebo item like Pass Smog, which they sell that here a lot in California. It's a bottle of who knows what that says Pass Smog on it. Do not pour any of that stuff into your vehicle. If you have a real problem with your vehicle emitting smoke, if it's a little bit of smoke, like maybe your valve stem seals are wearing out, your best bet is to put a brand new catalytic converter on there, and don't hesitate to go to the smog place after you get a brand new cat on there. It may clean it up enough for you to pass smog, or you may have to just fix whatever the problem truly is. But there's no additive you could put inside your fuel system to help you pass smog. It doesn't work that way. If that was the case, that product would be illegal in California. Okay, so next thing we want to do is, if you haven't done any maintenance on your vehicle in a really long time, now is the time to do it before you take it to smog. I can't stress enough how worn out spark plugs or old spark plugs will cause people to fail smog emissions all the time. So you want to make sure that the engine is operating efficiently, okay? So you want to make sure your spark plugs are fresh. Also, a dirty air filter is a no-no, so I'm going to be cleaning this air filter out. This one's cleanable and reusable, but if you have a paper filter, replace it. Let's see, also you want to make sure that there's no exhaust leaks. If you pull in and you can noticeably hear some type of exhaust leak, it's an automatic fail. So fix any exhaust leaks before you pull in. Also, if your valve cover gasket is leaking and noticeably leaking, and there's like oil caked all around the cylinder head or getting on the exhaust, you may have a PCV issue. A lot of times on dual overhead cam engines, the cams rotate really fast inside the valve cover, and it creates wind, and that wind will pressurize inside the valve cover, and that pressure's got to go somewhere, so it'll bust through the cover or bust through the gasket, and it'll begin leaking. That's why there's vent systems on the valve cover, PCV, allowing these enclosed systems like crankcases, valve covers to vent. So that may be an indication that you need to change your PCV. So if that's the case, go ahead and change your PCV valve and probably route some new hoses to the intake from the PCV if the hoses don't look good. All right, guys, on this vehicle, I'm going to go ahead and clean my filter, and then I'm going to change my spark plugs. So also, you may want to consider replacing your upstream O2 sensors. On this vehicle, it's a V8, so I have an upstream on each bank. You may only have one. It'd be a good idea to replace that particular sensor before you go in. We know that the O2 sensors are largely responsible for the correct air-fuel ratio. So we want to make sure that we have O2 sensors that's working efficiently before you go to the smog test, because the tailpipe probe will pick up on any little inefficiency that's going to raise the emissions. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to run over to AutoZone, I'm going to pick up some spark plugs, and then we'll go ahead and install them. So let's head over here and pick up some plugs. I haven't replaced the spark plugs in that thing in a long time, and OE plugs are copper plugs, which the service interval for copper plugs, you need to replace those a lot sooner than some spark plugs with other materials. Let's see here. Let's try something. I wonder whose car that is. That looks familiar. What's going on? Whoa, look who it is. It's Jez the Auto Tech. What's going on, brother?
What's up, man?
What's up? It's my boy Cool right here, man. Hook Dez up. Got my plugs?
Yep.
Right on. How you liking it, man?
Pretty cool. Laid back.
Yeah, you gonna stay here or you gonna end up wrenching again?
I'm still wrenching.
Still wrenching?
That.
I heard that, man. The bills don't stop. Yeah. You know what I mean? All right, Des. I'll be calling you, man. I still got work. All right, bro. All right, got my spark plugs. Let's head back. So for those of you that was asking what's Dez up to or what's Dez gonna do, as you can see, I didn't leave my boy hanging. So I reached out to the store manager, a buddy of mine, Koo, and asked him to hook Dez up with a job. And he hooked Dez up and actually gave him a manager job. As you can see, he was in the gray shirt and not the red shirt. So shout out to Koo, man. Thanks for hooking Dez up. You got a good employee, man. Well, got my spark plugs. Let's head back to the Jeep, get the plugs thrown in so we could get this Jeep smogged. All right, guys, so we're back with our spark plugs. Let's go ahead and install them. Alright, got my coils disconnected. Let's get these coils out. Okay, this one out. All right, so I got all the coils out on this side. I think I'm gonna go ahead and take my air cleaner off so I can wash it and it'll dry, hopefully, by the time I get done. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and wash this thing out. Alright, so I got my air filter outside drying. So this may not be 100% necessary for you, but I'm gonna go ahead and change, or I'm gonna go ahead and clean out my throttle body. If you have coils with replaceable boots and you have splits in the boots, or the boots are oily from maybe a spark plug tube seal or something like that, replace the boots and the coil contact inside. And you want to reseal your valve cover and tube seals before you take it in. All right, let's bust these plugs loose. Okay, so now it's time to put in our new spark plugs. You want to make sure that you put in the correct spark plug, the OE plug. If you call up the parts store, 9 times out of 10, they're going to try to upsell you to some type of iridium plug or double platinum or whatever spark plug it is that they try to upsell you to. If your vehicle takes copper spark plugs or just a standard spark plug, do not let them tell you you need to put in a better quality spark plug, regardless of whatever pressure they put on you. That's just their job to try to sell. It's your job to make sure you install the correct spark plugs. Let me give you an example. So you can see here we replaced it with the correct spark plug, RC12MC-C4. You can see right here, it's the RC12MC-C4 spark plug. So you want to make sure you get the right spark plug in there. We'll take it a step further here. You can see on the spark plug installation instructions, it says caution in all capitals. The standard 4.7 liter V8 engine is equipped with copper core ground electrode spark plugs. They must be replaced with the same type number spark plug as the original. If another spark plug is substituted, pre-ignition will result. So you also want to make sure that you use a gapper and make sure that your spark plug is at the right gap. A lot of times most spark plugs will already come gapped, so just verify. And if it's not gapped, then you want to gap it. Don't go over the gap or under. If you want the correct torque on these, I believe it's 20 foot-pounds. But you definitely want to snug them up. Don't be scared to torque them down, but don't go crazy either. Just snug them up. It is plugging the cylinder. All right. I never torque spark plugs down with long ratchets like this. It's too easy to over torque them. You'll reach 20 foot-pounds way before you realize. So I like to use something a little shorter to torque the spark plugs down. Let's put a little bit of dielectric grease in the coil, and every vehicle is different, but on this particular vehicle you also coat the O-ring. Keep moisture out. So I'm going to go through and coat all these coils with a little bit of dielectric grease and install them. Alright, we got all our coils laid down. Go ahead and fasten them back down. Alright, so we got our coils in, got everything fastened back down on that side. I'm going to go ahead now and tighten down the other side and then put our throttle body back on, which I've already cleaned. Alright, I got my throttle body cleaned out. Go ahead and throw that back on. Also, if you have a mass airflow sensor, it'd be a good time to clean out the mass airflow sensor and use mass airflow sensor cleaner. Don't use brake clean or carb clean. Use mass airflow sensor cleaner, and that'd be a good time to clean that out at this time as well. with your new air filter and your clean throttle body. If you decide to clean a throttle body out and IAC valve on your vehicle, if it doesn't have a rubber reusable gasket and it's a paper gasket, make sure you replace the paper gasket. Put our air cleaner back up. Alright, so our filter is dry, so we're going to go ahead and put our filter back on. Now these filters typically come with a recharge kit, where you spray some type of oil substance on here to create the cold air effect. I'm not going to put that stuff on here because I really don't know if there's any adverse effects from putting that on while taking it to Smog. So I'll wait until after I Smog to coat it with the recharge stuff. Okay, so I'm going to check my oil, see what condition the oil is in. Probably been close to about maybe 4,000 miles or so since I changed this oil last. So I know it's time to change it. We can see the oil here is not clean and it needs to be replaced. So I'm definitely going to change the oil before we go and Smog. Yes, changing your oil can help you pass Smog. So I got my oil and my oil filter replaced and drained out. I'm going for my Bank 1 upstream O2 sensor. So let's get that removed and get a new one installed. Okay, so we got our O2s in. Got the oil change with a new oil filter in there as well. So let's check our oil, make sure the oil's at the proper level. Make sure you got good clean motor oil before you take it to Smog. So you can see that's a dramatic improvement on our motor oil. Alright guys, so that completes the little bit of maintenance that I wanted to do on my Jeep before I take it to be Smog. I'll bring you guys along when I do the Smog test so we can see the results and see if I passed or not. One thing to mention, I've actually never took a vehicle to be Smogged with aftermarket air cleaner on here, so this ought to be interesting. I'm going to pack my stock air cleaner just in case the Smog technician doesn't want to do the test with the aftermarket on there. I'll put the stock on. So one last bit of advice I want to give you, and it's one of the more important pieces of advice to give. Before you take your vehicle in to get it smogged, do not go with the vehicle cold. If the vehicle is still warming up, that's not a good idea to take it while the vehicle is warming up. Or if there's still condensation dripping from the tailpipe or anything like that, do not take it. You want that vehicle to be good and hot before you take it to the smog shop. Let it get up to operating temperature. In fact, if you could drive it like 25 miles before you go to the smog shop, and here's the key here, when you get to the smog shop, don't turn it off. Leave it running the whole time you go from your house on the 25-mile trip to the smog shop. Don't turn the vehicle off, let it idle, so you can give that catalytic converter plenty enough time to get hot, to clean up all the pollutants, and you should be good to go. That all four tires are inflated, especially if it's going on a dyno. So I'm gonna pull in here to this RPM Smog. This is not my typical Smog place, but my shop, I'm no longer at my shop anymore. So as you can see, the vehicle's still running. You want to keep the vehicle running the whole time until the tech brings it in. What's going on, guys?
How you doing?
Called about the smog.
Alright, you get your dealer. So this is what we're looking at, this number right here. We're going to type this number into the state computer, and it's going to come back with a year, make, and model that's available to be on. And it's good, it's non-stop.
Okay.
The rest of the equipment should just go off this label right here. California or federal models. You got to type that in, and this is all the equipment that your car is supposed to have.
Yeah.
So we just go over that equipment, make sure nothing's missing, modified, or disconnected. Good to go. We also check to make sure that the computer hasn't been reset, or the check engine light's are on. So if the computer's been reset, you want to drive it usually at least a week before you try and sell it.
Oh, how many miles?
We recommend 25 miles a day for 7 different days. Some days, I mean, some cars are pretty easy. You can do it in like the first 20 miles you drive it. We've had cars you've had to drive up to 3,000 miles.
So we got the tech here, basically going over what basically the other tech just told us. Right now, he's basically checking for like broken vacuum lines and evap hoses that might be split, or a rigged up hose that might have tape around it or something goofy like that. So the visual inspection portion. And then, you know, just making sure nothing's out of place. Otherwise, they'll automatically
The K&N
fail
kit that you buy has to be the complete K&N kit. So say like you get a filter that goes bad, you can't replace it with a Spectra filter. It has to be a complete K&N tube, a stock tube with an aftermarket filter. Whatever that kit came with, that's what has to be on there.
Okay. And that's an automatic fail. But you got to make sure it's a complete kit. So you can't run like a K&N tubing and then try to put on like a different filter on it. That's going to be an automatic fail.
Check to make sure you got the right amount of gas.
As far as all those O2 sensor tricks, that's not going to fly.
Yeah, if they're still on there when they come in here, we look for them, you'll fail for that.
So make sure you can't cheat the computer by putting O2 sensor spacers in there. You need to just go ahead and replace the O2 sensor. I know they could be expensive, but it's necessary. I mean, it's pretty critical to have the correct air-fuel ratio anyway. So you might as well just save up if you have to. Buy some good quality. I recommend NTK or go with a genuine. But a lot of those cheap O2 sensors I've had problems with before in the past. So if you're trying to get it Smog and you change your O2 sensor, don't cheap out, get a high quality O2 sensor.
So to check up aftermarket parts on the state's website, so let's click on here. Let me go. The website you want is arb.ca.gov. That's the California Air Resources Board. Click on that, go to the main page.
And so this is if you have aftermarket intake on there. You want to make sure that the number on the aftermarket intake is a match on or CARB compliant, and you can actually verify that by going to this website, correct?
Yes, any aftermarket performance part in the state of California is going to have what's called an executive order number, which has to match year, make, model, engine size, and on catalytic converters, whether it's California or federal emissions. So this is the California Air Resources Board, and so you can go to resources. What I would do is type in aftermarket parts, search it, and then look right here, aftermarket parts verification. So this is the actual website here. So click on that. What the heck? Aftermarket parts and parts on. There we go. So this is the actual website from the state. So we're gonna go down here to the bottom for the executive order number for this vehicle, or this part number is D269-28. Click on here for search EOs, and pops up a list. Gives you the EO number, the date it was issued, manufacturer, what kind of device it is, so injection performance kit, air intake modification, and lists all the vehicles with the part numbers. So if we go down to Jeep, right here, 99 to 04 Jeep Grand Cherokee V8 4.7 liter, it matches on the state's website, so it's legit.
Nice. All right, guys, so that's one way to verify. Before you take your vehicle to the Smog place and you have any type of aftermarket part, you got to go to the California Air Research Board website, check it out, make sure it's that the part is a matching part. Everything matches, the tubing, the filter, everything, and that it is acceptable. What'll happen if you guys get a vehicle in here and it's not
Well, let's say you had an 05 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Well, since it only lives for 99 to 2004, it's technically a failure. Even though it may fit the vehicle and from underneath the hood, it still doesn't pass because it's out of that year range.
and you guys will automatically fail that vehicle.
Yes.
So we're all complete with the Smog. The tech has the results, so we'll find out if it passed or not. Got a big fat pass.
All right, good.
All right, brother, appreciate it.
All right, dude, have a good one.
You too. All right, guys, that was it.